about, because normally what I do is more of like a variety show where there's a couple different deep dive topics in the arena of pop culture. But I thought, well, I want to focus on doing like a single topic show because I think that would be really well what would focus things. And I had stumbled across the idea of doing a show on Woodstock 99 because I'm fascinated by the anthropological details, because in 1999, the music that happened at Woodstock 99 was the furthest from what I was listening to. I was pretty much listening to like Pavement, Guided by Voices, the complete opposite of most of what was so good and bad about Woodstock 99. So I was just really fascinated about the topic, and I had approached Zebulon, and it turns out they were already doing a show on Woodstock 99. So I thought, well, that's the most fortuitous thing ever. So I want to bring up the hosts of Podcast 99, the true crime podcast on Woodstock 99. Ryan and Parks. And for some extra perspective, my good friend Liz, who is not only a music writer and has written Captain Weekly and many other places, but was a DJ with me at KXLU in the late 90s when Woodstock 99 was happening. So we both, I don't know, we were sheltered in a way. It's been really fascinating.
Yeah, so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to walk you through Woodstock 99. If you haven't listened to our show, you should. But if you haven't, what we do is we break it down more than it will ever be broken down again. This is an hour-by-hour thing that we've done, and we've compiled what we consider the quintessential clips from Woodstock 99 that's going to tell the entire story. And mind you, yes, we're making jokes, it's going to be funny, it's lighthearted, but there's some really fucking serious shit that happened there that isn't funny at all, and that's kind of why it's worth talking about, you know, because otherwise it could just be completely forgotten. So, you know, with that being said, and also I'd like to thank Parks Miller for flying out from Atlanta. Different kind of perspective than we've had because we're dudes. But yeah, so let's without further ado, right? Let's start it off a little light.
Yeah. So after Woodstock 69, the first one, there was Woodstock 89.
Yeah, there was kind of Woodstock 89. It was more of like a tailgate party where they're like, oh, we're gonna meet in this field and we're gonna celebrate the fact that Woodstock happened, but in no way was it affiliated with the actual Woodstock Ventures, which is the company that owns Woodstock. Again, it was more of a tailgate. There was some acts that played, they had some stages, and there's a 20-minute video on YouTube that you can find where it's just a guy walking around with his camcorder filming what's happening. And I think the only artist that actually played at the original Woodstock was Melanie. You might know her from I Got a Brand New Pair of Roller Skates, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And but everything else fell the fuck apart, and it was basically just a big party, but it's kind of a funny thing to look at.
Didn't Jimi Hendrix's son play?
No, he talked.
Oh.
And so did the manager of a nearby hotel, who was there to say that we welcome Woodstock, and in the true spirit of Woodstock, we have Melanie playing. Oh, that's right, she didn't play at Woodstock 89, she played at the hotel. He's like, so in the true spirit of Woodstock, we have Melanie, so come on down to the Sheraton and we'll treat you right. And everyone's just, boo, corporate pig, you're in a suit.
So, and then after 89, there was actually, in the 25th anniversary, there was Woodstock 94.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a pretty iconic festival.
Yeah.
I would venture to say there's a lot of really great performances here. Maybe the most famous one would be 9 Inch Nails or Green Day.
Yeah, Green Day because of the mud that was thrown at them, and then 9 Inch Nails for covering themselves in mud, probably to avoid, you know, getting it thrown at them. Yeah.
Primus for having a song called About Mud.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and for being Primus at Woodstock.
And as we see behind us, that's the mud in question.
Oh,
This essentially was a success. This was the 90s success version of the original Woodstock.
Right, and it was easy for them to book. I'm sure you guys have seen in the news how much trouble Woodstock 50 has had being booked. It's kind of a big joke. We'll get into that later. But in 94, when the people that started Woodstock said, hey, we want to do another one, everyone was hoping they would ask to do it in their town. So they ran into no problems. That was short-lived because Everyone snuck in. It turned into a total shit show. God, he's so cool. And then, you know, there was so much trash left behind. It's all the same stuff that happened in the original Woodstock. And if you know anything about the original Woodstock, you know it didn't make any money. It was terrible. There was 30,000 sleeping bags left on the grounds, and it was declared a disaster site afterwards. There was laws put into place in the state of New York based on what happened at the original Woodstock that they have since broken at every other festival.
But there was no major catastrophe, so it's a good shit show. Nothing, it's remembered fondly.
Yeah, it's a good shit show. Yeah. But that brings us to the matter at hand.
Yeah, so I mean, like coming from someone who just didn't know the music at all, I didn't really pay attention to the news of the festival and assumed wrongly that it was just like this. It was all kind of like woohoo and giggles and fairy tales. So,
It was not.
it was more like this.
A lot of trash.
These are our photos from Woodstock.
I don't know. It still
I
looks
like her.
fun.
I like her in the corner sleeping in her bucket.
Well, and also, there's nothing better than a guy washing his pits in the fountain you're supposed to drink from. We do have some survivors in the house, but we're gonna get to that later too.
Well, that was so tame compared to this. This is a delay tower. So at any large festival, you have these towers that have more speakers on them to make the sound kind of even out the delay. So I mean, this has got to weigh a couple thousand pounds. You're not supposed to knock it over. If you didn't realize.
And at some point, they thought it was a smart idea to hand out candles, even though the actual official pamphlet says don't bring candles. They handed out all
Well,
these
because
candles.
they didn't want you to bring your own, you know? But the thing is, and this is one of the somber moments about Woodstock 99, is the Columbine High School shooting happened just a couple months before, on April 20th, 1999. This was July 23rd to the 25th. And so this peace group called PAX, they were an anti-gun, you know, activist group. They decided to hand out candles on the last day to be lit during the Red Hot Chili Peppers song "Under the Bridge." And what did they use those for? Oh yeah, that's right.
Under fucking carnage is what it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, and then it breaks down, and we're gonna take you through from the entire start to when it breaks down. Like that's it's pretty grim.
Yeah, that's the
Most
Monday
festivals
morning.
don't end like this.
The fest is over. It's like The Walking Dead.
They had to call in the police.
And you see, Tense just left. Oh, this is great. This was a quote from.
Oh yeah, this is a quote from one of the dudes in Los Lobos. And they played in Woodstock 99. And we'll see a very, really teeth-clenching clip later. Yeah. I just thought this was a particularly apropos quote. This is the first generation that's been branded their whole lives. They've been identified as a market opportunity since they took their first breath. And when you take those people and tell them this is going to be culturally and historically important, and it turns out to be another commercial, I'd probably get pretty pissed off too. All right, so this is what we're going to show you now is an edited down version of Much Music's after the fact summation.
Right, and Much Music is, if you don't know, it's like Canada's MTV before they had MTV Canada. But it's very lighthearted and it's goofy, but also it just lends. It's kind of like the opening scene of a horror movie when we're all on our way to camp and we can't wait to get to camp. But camp's not what we think it's gonna be.
Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, peace and love, huh? Peace and love.
Fire! I can see the fire's back behind us. Who's got the marshmallows?
And while you're down there, yeah, it's easy there, Bill. What do you think I have 14 like other girlfriends?
Over the next 30 minutes, total recap of 3 days of peace, love, and music here at Woodstock.
Yeah, peace, love, and music. Were you in the same place I was?
Lots of piercings and tattoos, too.
Yeah, that's right. 3 days of $12 pizzas here in Woodstock.
How's the traffic coming in?
It wasn't bad until we got right into Rome. Yeah, it was pretty good.
So how bad is it now?
It's bad. It's just backed up everywhere. River Base, just so you know. Decommissioned Air Force Base.
It's a big show, and there's a lot of different styles of bands playing, so it's just a big thing.
Boobs make me happy. Well, you know what, Phil? So far, you're the biggest boob I've seen here. Yeah!
I wanted to do Star Spangled Banner to send a spirit of free fall.
We're gonna talk about this later.
Saturday at Woodstock!
If you listen to the show, that's a great show.
We're dealing with the heat. We've had one baby that's being born as we speak.
What about the mud fights? Anything about the mud fights? Do people like the mud fights?
One little mud fight, they seem to be having a ball.
So what is the official statement from the mud people here at Woodstock?
The mud is awesome. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Everybody should do it. I don't know why everyone's so clean here.
When you're growing up listening to the Sex Pistols, they told us to never trust a hippie. So I don't know, but those kind of simple values of just love and not killing people is pretty universal, and we stick to them.
Way back in '69 when that piece of love crap was going on, it ain't going on.
I was barely coming out of the nutsack. I was born in '69.
I was not even born yet, so I don't really give a fly. You know what? It's an awesome festival, but the hippies don't get
I'm not into that hippie crap. We ain't hippies here.
I'll just, take care of myself.
Didn't like a lot of piece of love flying around. We're like big old bruising blokes hitting each other watching Korn.
You know, the camera's not even able to capture what we can see from up here. It's just a sea of bottles flying in the air.
It's kind of like in the original Woodstock when all got cremated and everybody turned on their lighters. This is kind of a 99 version of the lighter thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a term of endearment. People like, they throw bottles because they like you.
Did you plan on having them throw stuff like that, or was that something that just happened for the moment?
I've seen a few times people chuck stuff, and I was like, wow, that looks cool. I was like, I wonder if I do a good show, hit them with Raw Talent, I was like, I bet I could win the crowd over and get this whole place going and stuff. I'm like, piss everybody off. So I'm like, hey, this last 3 bars, everyone chuck what you got in your hands. Worked.
Okay, so we're now at the Burger King in Rome, New York, home of Woodstock '99. Hey, what's up? What are you doing? What's the town like?
It's pretty cool. They're all nice. They're like this is the first concert I've been to where everybody that you'll meet is really nice to you.
How about the locals?
They're cool. They're pissed off.
How do you feel about Woodstock?
It's all right, but they could be better. Yeah, they come to Western and bird the oldies and but goodies.
Harold, a dual Woodstock alumni. We're in Metallica.
I have the feeling then and 30 years later. Can you even compare it?
You can't compare it because it was such a surprise to everyone in 1969. I mean, nobody expected that to happen, and nobody expected people to act the way they did. And in '94, we were wondering that, and I think going into that, we were unsure, but we lived through that weekend, and
Word salad.
When it came down to it,
That's the guy that founded Woodstock, by the way.
Feeling, and we think this is going in that direction too.
Yeah, Michael Lang is behind all the Woodstock 50 drama currently.
I think there's a lot of people here to spread love and peace and harmony, and I think there's a lot of people here to
do everything other than that, and I feel like there's a lot of consciousness and unconsciousness and everything, so that's part of the charm of getting this amount of people together, is that you get everything.
Career landmark for the County Crows. It's great. It's great to play on. It's really cool. I think it's a cool thing, but I'm not gonna fool myself and thinking this is some kind of cultural landmark. There's like 8,000 people there in Boston throwing to each other.
I don't really buy into the whole Woodstock to love thing as far as. Yeah, it's just a reason for a bunch of people and a bunch of bands to get together and play, and that's all good. It's just so well done. Nothing's gonna go wrong, so nothing's gonna go wrong. Yeah, it's a little hermetically sealed.
Probably there's somewhat less of a political consciousness in the 99 crowd than in the 69 crowd. But when it comes to the stage, probably the only band playing these 3 days that brings together some of the elements of counterculture, political activism, and anti-war sentiment. That'd be Rage Against the Machine.
Rest in peace. Any me?
So I'll throw out there that my Limp Bizkit cover band just put out their show on Friday.
I feel like we're watching a documentary on the Discovery Channel or something.
He's the king of his circle, man, with all of his friends.
Let's just hope that some of them get hit between the legs and they don't breathe.
Woodstock pulled the plug halfway through our set on my mic because it was getting too crazy. What happened through all this craziness? The people started to rip off the soundboard or something? They started to literally tear the place apart, and it was pretty intense.
They're breaking stuff.
To ask you to mellow out a little bit. They say too many people are getting hurt.
From the intro to the show.
Don't let nobody get hurt. But I don't think you should mellow out.
You actually just decided to jump in and ride on the plywood board.
It looks so fun. I mean, I want to be a part of that too.
Jerry. Okay, Jerry, where you from? Rome. You hear Rome right here? Yeah. You're one of the locals. Yeah. Don't you just feel like saying sometimes,
Everybody get the hell out of my town!
yeah, yeah? You can say that tomorrow. Yeah. Take that way. Yeah, you're from German, so listen up to my
That dude was so
This is absurd.
So
I want you to mellow out, but
Get the hell out of my town.
any thoughts so far from the panel about just what you're seeing?
So, I did like the way that kind of built up. You know?
Well, you know what happens.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I think, honestly, you know what? At the time, the only one of those groups that I had any remote interest in was the Chemical Brothers.
That's
So, so a lot of it was kind of weird. I didn't even know they were playing because I was kind of oblivious. I knew the news that was going on at the time when it happened. I didn't have any sort of anticipation for it in any way, partially probably because I lived in LA, so it was on the opposite side of the country, and really because I didn't really have any interest in the groups that were playing.
Right.
So, but then watching the build up, I think, was pretty interesting, and I like this balance of the cynicism in that you get to in some of the artists later on.
Well, they all
was just talking.
Yeah, that's the one thing about Woodstock '99, and even at the original Woodstock, okay, bands that played didn't know that it was going to be this thing that we're going to be talking about 50 fucking years later. But in '99, they were like, yeah, this isn't anything. This is just a summer festival. So that's what you get, where Woodstock is supposed to be this huge culturally relevant thing, and you got the guy from Counting Crows of all bands being like, yeah, it's whatever.
I think it's kind of it's kind of like the ultimate culmination of the 90s, because in a lot of ways, that is what happened in the 90s. You had something like Nirvana, who kind of unexpectedly got really big and kind of unexpectedly changed the course of what was happening in rock music and alternative music at that point in time. Totally changed what we're hearing on the radio and on MTV too. But then as you have more and more coming out, that was kind of directed towards this market, which I guess I was part of because I was a teenager at the time. And it's very conscious about pushing this idea of you are part of a change.
You get Bush.
Yeah.
Bush is because Nirvana, there is Bush.
Once you say that something is going to be culturally significant, it can't be culturally significant because these things are supposed to happen in a sort of organic fashion.
Of course, yeah, and that's what Woodstock 69 was, and that's such a theme that we're always going to go back to is Woodstock is Woodstock because it wasn't planned to be what it ended up being, and every time they've done it since, it's to replicate this thing that actually happened, and you can't do it because vegan cheese doesn't taste as good as real cheese. Sorry, I'm sorry.
You do this issue of selling out, right? So
selling out.
So you see some of these bands saying it's not in the spirit.
Bag's still tight, all right?
Oh, thank you. Watch the Woodstock performance. Yeah, they do a 20-minute drum solo battle to fill up their 90-minute set.
This is great, by the way. This little editorial cartoon here.
I just want to say you have some bands that are like, oh, I think it's kind of a sellout thing, while they're taking like $100,000-$200,000 check to play at Woodstock.
So we're looking at some of the pretty horrendously negative press of the day, but it was also just washed away as soon as it happened.
Right, it was covered up.
Yeah, I do love the fact that Kurt Loder felt fear because that man is inflammable on TV.
Let's talk about Kurt Loder for a minute.
So okay, this was in Newsweek, and all the coverage is cynical too. Like there was
completely like everyone while it was happening, day one, day two, even the pre-show is like, oh my god, it's really turning out to be really great. Look at all these people, it's so positive. By day three, even before it ended in what's inevitably going to be a terrible thing, that stopped. It was like, no, this fucking sucks, and we're basically just prisoners of the fact that we paid that much money for a ticket, so we can't just leave. But yeah, so that's why you don't see any like positive press after it was over. You only see that while it was going on.
Yeah, and then this is a sidebar. This is on the exact same page of this issue of Newsweek, and was about like who the political establishment just wants to rubber stamp as a candidate.
If at first you don't succeed, try again.
If only he could use his powers for good and drain the swamp at the bathrooms at Woodstock 99.
Same smirk.
So if we look at it now, is Woodstock 99 kind of a window into what would happen in 2019?
I don't. There's an argument for that.
Blunt
talked about
yes.
Yeah, short answer, yeah. But it's deeper than that. We've talked about this on the show where it's like Woodstock is like going to Las Vegas. It's a completely contained culture of anything goes, and it's really dependent on society's values. You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like we're in a better place now than maybe we were 3-4 years ago. You know what I mean? Because we understand the repercussions of not caring that much. You know, and that's why we can reflect Woodstock 99 in the political climate and social movements like Me Too and things like that. But I think that Woodstock is just an interesting case study into humanity and how humans act with each other and interact with each other when the idea is there's no rules. Like that, it's true anarchy. Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, there's definitely a window into how we got there. But also, I don't think that everyone that went to Woodstock 99 is like wearing MAGA hats and stuff. You know what I mean? Because they went to Woodstock. Like there's something to that still. But it is interesting, for sure.
Here's something we found of someone trying to get buried at Woodstock.
Someone did get engaged at Woodstock, though, right after Mike Ness's set. That's some social distortion, if you're not familiar.
All right, so this is the actual brochure that they were handing out on the grounds for info. Note, it says, please leave at home candles at the bottom.
Yeah, please bring personal hygiene products. Please. And also, please bring prescription medicines. Like, yeah, duh, you fucking idiot.
Look at all this info you're expecting.
Prescription medicines there.
There's a lot of info on this thing. You're supposed to like memorize all this?
There we go. The music and other fun stuff. Now, we've talked about the music a lot. If you guys were here for a while, you saw James Brown open up the stuff. But the other fun stuff is really what's kind of fascinating. A cyber technology park. That's what? All-night raves in a gigantic airplane hangar. That's crazy stuff.
The Experimental Theater and Film Festival ended up being IFC sponsoring a tent where they were just playing like John Waters movies and stuff.
Yeah, if you saw the exhibit before we started, and if you didn't when we're done, get up, don't do it now. But we have the IFC Film Festival schedule and Odorama cards from when they showed Polyester at Woodstock 99.
I'm sure the smells were
Courtesy of a survivor that we're going to introduce later.
So this is the map of the grounds. And it's enormous. There's so much shit at this festival.
That you had an action lounge, which was basically like a skate park, but you had to pay $10 to use it. So people were dredging their fucking BMX bikes and skateboards across this festival just to pay $10 to like skate at a festival that they paid almost $200 to go to.
I just want to say, all that green is a lie. So this was at an Air Force base, Griffiths Air Force Base, that had been deemed like uninhabitable because of chemical spills.
Yeah, toxic. It was a toxic waste storage plant. It was a class 4 environmental hazard. Class 4 is like when a nuke gets dropped. It's really bad. And that's right. Oh, perfect place for peace, love, and music.
Right, but they have like the little darker green, like, oh, this is like a real nice dense forest
or a golf course.
Made all that up.
All right, so this, I love this, as if in this chaos anyone would remember what they're talking about. And then this was also interesting to me that Ace Hardware remains, but these other three early internet brands are way long gone.
I can go to Media Bay right now.
Yeah, don't. But apparently Woodstock 99 was webcast at 1 frame per hour.
Yeah, well, it's like Carney Wilson, Brian Wilson's daughter, who had gastric bypass, like live streamed on the internet before that was like a thing. So it's just like boop, boop, boop. That's what Woodstock was online. But keep in mind, folks, that it was streamed on pay-per-view the entire time without like air breaks in between bands. So the camera would just like zoom into the crowd and try and find like shit going on in between. But millions of people saw this shit go down. It wasn't just the people that were there.
And this is these are some images of Rome, New York on probably the night before the festival starts, I'm gonna guess, when people are starting to file in. Now, who took these photos?
We had an email from this guy, Ben Gianni, because we accept submissions of stories and photos on our show, Podcast 99, and this guy just sent us this master file of like these crazy pictures. And now, I mean, we're lucky enough to have professional photographers in the audience that were actually there that provided these amazing prints, Mike Schreiber, and also Andy, who gave us the ones that you saw on the table. But this guy just sent me this massive file. I was like, it's just like shit like this, and I was like, dude, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Excuse me.
A lot of traffic. And it wouldn't be the 90s without Snapple. Alright, so now we're going to get into what it actually looked like on the grounds with the security, or lack of security.
Yes, and this is, like, when we mentioned in the, ads, if you saw them or whatever, that we're going to show never before seen footage, this is part of that. This is just a reporter's notebook, filming things that were happening. We called it the mystery tape on our show. And this is what a security check looked like at Woodstock 99.
And then they're going to get into other things.
Yeah, we're going to get into sanitation and food.
Those
No guns in there. Counseling.
Confused yet? If I was tripping, and this sign would be my worst enemy.
I'm on acid like, Jesus.
Walk this way.
They had those kind of backpacks in '99.
He's got a froyo.
It shows the enormity of the ground.
You can see there's a lot of green, but no one's allowed to stand on it. Brian's dedication to finding.
Look at him, he's saving that one for later. Like, that little guy is mine.
Falafel festival from 20 years ago is interesting.
That guy doesn't even know what the fuck he's eating. Look at him, he's so bummed.
This is great. This is a drug deal.
Don't fucking waste cameras. That's not worth it. I'm not gonna waste cameras. Okay. That's a scumbag doing what? Trying to catch the goddamn. God, let me film that shit. That's the fuck. That's the opium he just purchased. Where's those shamrocks? Where's the shamrocks at? Right there. Wait. Hey, baby.
Oh, that's the good stuff right there. Yeah, who's got the shamrocks?
We got some shamrocks.
So water was a big issue. The accessibility of water.
Yeah, $4 is what it started at. It ends up at $7. You can get one at the merch stand for $10.
Too out of the ordinary, but
this shit is. Just watching people shower. It's not weird. Oh!
So this creates the mud, which creates the mud Nazis.
Yeah, the mud Nazis are the party. Look at this, it's like a cobblestone street of garbage.
Peaceful as a lake. It's nice.
Yeah, it's pretty gross, right?
It's grosser.
So sanitation was a real big problem.
Yeah, okay, so here's the deal. Sanitation totally broke down because the way that they decided to have the trash dealt with was to hire all the local teens. Like, oh, we'll give them jobs. But when the teens were told, like, yeah, if you want free water, you got to go to the stand, but you have to do that on your break to get, like, the spigot water, or you can pay $4 for a bottle. So you're like, fuck this, I'm in Woodstock, I'm done. And they just, like, go off and hang out. So none of the trash really got cleaned up. And there's, like, press conferences that we watched about this where they're on the grounds and there's a sanitation guy yelling at them, like, I could clean up better than this, I clean up a football stadium every night. And the co-promoter of Woodstock 99, John Scher, who kind of acts as our evil mayor in this narrative, like the man in the tower, if you will, he just says, well, think they can do a better job? Go ahead, bring them down here. I'll pay them $1,000 a day. My guys are kicking ass. He didn't have any guys. He didn't have anyone. So it totally breaks down. And then the water, because it was such a fucking big deal, they break the drainage systems to get water, and then that just becomes mixed with, and then because of that you can't get to the porta potties, and because of that it just becomes a pool of
you
shit.
see these fountains just spewing up. Yeah, it's just these fountains mixing with.
What do you think, Liz? You gonna go in there?
I have kind of like a half sort of phobia of festival bathrooms anyhow.
Oh.
I mean, I've been to a lot of festivals and I always have a plan because they're disgusting.
If you go to a really well-run festival,
Yeah,
it's already
the
pretty
best,
dicey.
The best ones are really bad, and so yeah, I don't.
Okay, so as a survivor of many festivals, Liz, like what is some of the worst conditions you've seen, and how does that compare to that?
There was this Ozfest I went to. It's the only time I ever went to Ozfest, and it was reporting. That's why I went. And I can't remember. I can't remember what year it was. I think it might have been like 07. I can't remember, but it was just really hot and awful, and
And Ozfest dudes
were like shouting out like "Show me your tits" sort of stuff, and then there was like somebody projectile vomited. It was just gross.
You can't take a dump comfortably at a festival. Just accept it. That's why you see like the people that love festivals. You don't want them coming over to your house. like most people, like when you go to a friend's house, like I can't poop here. I'm not comfortable pooping in places that aren't my house. Festival veterans that are like love going and this shit doesn't bother them. They will poop in your house.
There were a couple Coachellas where the bathrooms were pretty bad. So
No, well, it's all bad. It's all bad. Except nowadays, because no one uses them to poop, they just use them to do drugs.
Well, if you're at a festival at a certain point and you go to the bathrooms, there's a lot of puke.
Yeah.
There's a lot of puke.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most disgusting part.
So here's a recreation of something from the original Woodstock, but in pizza boxes, right?
Yeah, so at the original Woodstock, again, which was a shit show, they made like one of the big famous scenes from it is a helicopter, ascending in the air, and from the air you see this big peace sign constructed out of fucking garbage. And they still did that now as a tribute, but it's all the same. It's just all pizza boxes and trash bags, because none of this stuff was being picked up at the end of the day.
You theorize this is day one.
This is definitely day one, I would say.
Oh yeah, now we get to the Mud Nazis. One of my
The Mud Nazis. Look at the people fleeing, like orcs are invading.
We can assume that there's an amount of feces in this mud.
Most definitely.
This is shit mud.
Who let him in with a super soaker?
This is one of the many factions of Woodstock 99. We're also going to see footage of drum stock.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of different subcultures happening in this no rules arena.
They think they're in their own music video. They are.
This is when Offspring, Limp Bizkit, Buck, when all these bands are the most popular band at the time, this is the result of that.
Drum stock. We talked about this on the show.
So they just took trash cans and repurposed them into their drums, leaving the site with no trash cans and fewer trash cans.
That guy's using a camera as a drum.
They're taking like feces, mud, male aggression, some sort of. This is an attempt to like call back to 1969, like a hippie
But
communal
instead they go back
vibe.
to like caveman days. They went too far.
And they stayed there the whole time, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude, there's guys like they took it upon themselves. We're drumming this entire festival. Fuck seeing the bands I paid to see. Ooh.
Imagine abandoning the people you came to the festival with to join this cult.
Dude, Parks, please don't start drumming. You won't be able to stop.
If this is all footage that Ryan found on this tape, that is not in the pay-per-view.
from a distance, they had no rhythm, but as you got closer and you kind of walked around the free, like each individual kind of like little drum circle had its own little rhythm. I thought it was kind of interesting.
I guess that means no one was listening to each other.
Yes, they could have taken the sticks and poles and gone out to the crowd, but they didn't.
What the fuck is happening?
Sorry if I'm wrong, but even just the term drum circle seems to be
obsolete.
Yeah, just a drum circle.
This is a drum mob.
All right.
So yeah, I just
blood
can't get over
drums.
the weird, the organic formation of subcultures within hours. How does that happen?
Drugs.
Oh.
No, y'all did the same drug. You're like, okay, we're on the same drug. Let's bang on trash cans. Let's not stop banging on trash cans so we're not on the same drugs, but we're gonna stay on the same drugs the whole time.
But there's a myth. There's a myth going on here. This is Woodstock. This is the 30th. So you see that movie from '69, and you see that there's people naked and there's these amazing performances happening.
So they're cosplaying Woodstock.
So you can. I want to have some of that too. I want to get naked. I want to whip my dick on a tin can. I want to have a part of this. I want to cover myself in mud too.
But the thing is, fucking people didn't do drum stock in the original Woodstock. This is completely like meth was the newest drug on the market, by the way, at this time.
Instead of sliding the family stone,
you've
you've got Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, and then you get Limp Bizkit, and then people are no, fuck all that shit. I'm banging on this trash can, and I can't stop because then I accomplished that, and I guess that's the best I got.
Well,
the drugs are better too.
Earlier, like before the show, we were talking about just exactly what drugs everybody was on at the time. So let's talk about what drugs were in vogue in 1999 and were all these people on that.
Liz, you went to the first Coachella, correct?
I did.
Okay, what were the big drugs there?
Well, for me, I just smoked weed.
Well, yeah.
I
mean,
never
that's
really
not a
did
drug.
more than smoke. It was at the time.
Yes, it was a different world.
But probably like in general, what kind of drugs were people into in '99?
Yeah.
I would say probably like the party drugs, really.
Yeah, ecstasy
and stuff like that.
Like real ecstasy, not this Molly shit you guys
Yeah,
do.
I mean,
real
it was
Prince
like-
pills with symbols, yeah.
I think like it was probably a couple of years later when people started getting into cocaine again. So I think it was still mostly like kind of sort of like a raver drug, ecstasy sort of scene.
Dance stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but one thing, like from what we've read from people's stories that they've like submitted to like weird like angel fire forums and stuff, that we've like somehow dug up. Meth was this new thing that had come out of like the circuit party scene and from truckers, and now like the normal suburban kid was like, oh shit, there's a new drug, I'll try that, and it's fucking meth. So it's like that's where you get like drum stock and shit. You know what I mean? That's not ecstasy. Like ecstasy is like, because they had a rave that went on. We're gonna show that stuff too. So there was places to be to enjoy a really like a decent party drug or like a morally correct, party drug, not some bastard like meth. But we're doing that shit, and that's kind of what you're seeing there. And also, alcohol, mind you, was cheaper to buy than water at a certain point for a lot of the festival. So it was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go blind from drinking beer and bang on the trash can.
So behind us we have more photos of just the mud carnage, and it looks like I don't know why would you voluntarily scoop your hands into that earth that's right next to you?
Because someone probably hit them with it, and they're like, fuck that. And so they pick it up too. And that guy's doing the Banksy pose right there. Hurling shit. That's the guy that submitted these pictures, by the way. Terrified. Look, we got a ghetto fucking Questlove right there, just banging on a trash can, but he's got the pig, the classic, iconic pig. Mind you, the Roots played at Woodstock 99. People don't know that.
And Drumstock was in front of the emerging artist stage, which was the only shade in the entire festival.
Yeah, and it was in one of the hangars where they used to store bombers during all the wars. But peace, love, and music. We've been drumming non-stop since 1:30 a.m. 12 hours down, infinity to go.
That's the desperation of that movie, They Shoot Horses, don't they? That same mentality. Okay, so we're going to run through a bunch of musical moments which caught our eye. A few of these moments were on that commercial DVD, but this is mostly stuff that was
Right. Well, this kind
a
of
little
shows
too hot for
you,
TV.
Yeah, it shows you the eclectic mix of acts and just who actually played. I mean, we're obviously not going to go through all of them because there's like a fucking 100. But you'll be like, oh shit, like that is a weird ass lineup.
Or moment.
Each day they have one prominent, like, female headliner to just be like, all right, we did it. Yeah.
We've seen this guy already.
Oh, this next one is fucking juicy though. It's green with the
original Woodstock. This man we're about to introduce decided not to play. We
This
called him up
is
and
three
said,
arms wide open.
hey man,
This is when they're working
come jam
days,
with
you
us.
know?
This is Robbie Krieger from the Doors, man.
This is a personal observation. I think I want to realize more big launches.
Robbie Krieger from the Doors wearing an Undertaker t-shirt and yellow Levi's.
And they watch. So if you do listen to our show, you'll know that DMX's performance is one of the most iconic, truly entertaining, legendary
However,
shows.
it definitely holds the world record for the most white people singing the N-word songs. None of them stopped themselves from singing along.
I'm impressed that he could hold the entire audience enraptured with his grunting.
Yeah, well, by himself. I mean, like other like Ice Cube played, but he went on the smaller stage. He had a hype man. This guy's up here by himself in front of the entire planet. It's pretty epic. It's kind of like a David and Goliath moment. That's kind of what we do.
One of my favorite moments is in this set, these two naked clowns. There, right, yes. That's one of my favorite.
Well, that was my favorite set.
Watch this film, she was like a crazy pants fan.
Night level was somebody just holding a keg behind it.
They played 94, Woodstock 94 as well.
Like green after, green some kind of monster.
3 haircuts, 3 full haircuts. 3 stinger.
What is this?
None of you know who this is. That's my favorite moment of Woodstock 99. One more time.
We've seen way too much Offspring this whole night.
No, never enough. The Offspring is like,
Listen to your parents naked Flea. We got an exclusive picture of Naked Flea here tonight.
you get a close-up look at that flea flicker. This is your favorite. The photographer who took the shots.
This is a band called Seven Dust.
They're from my hometown, Atlanta.
Yeah, check it out. One of the guitars is a Confederate flag guitar.
From right here to the front, to the back, to the left, to the fucking right. Let me see your hands and hear your voices.
sure that this is their best performance.
Keep in mind, this is Woodstock. This is peace-loving music.
Kid Rock also played at 2 o'clock.
I ain't even being all medical, saving the whales, but telling you to go see a goddamn shrink. I'm in the trailer parks, Pabst Blue Ribbon, and fucking top shelf mixed drinks. Deepest Kid Rock dance. Monica Lewinsky is a fucking hoe, and Bill Clinton is a goddamn pimp.
That's a hot take.
I'm gonna break it down and let you know what I think it's all about. Next time somebody comes up to you, they wanna argue, fight, scream, and shout, just look the motherfucker dead in the eyes and simply tell them,
you want my balls in your mouth.
And this is the moment that is really fucking rough, folks.
He's conducting. He's conducting the band. That's what he's doing with his
Kid Rock
face.
Stacy. Kid Rock Ellington.
Rest in peace. He's gonna leave us. Right, the Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky quote, I did in this whole thing where it's like, okay, it's just like trashy music, whatever. I did find that particular quote to be very interesting because it was like, all right, within this like whatever you want to think of it, music, it's like I don't agree with what he's saying at all, but like it's just funny how he's like, I'm not gonna get political, but I'm gonna say this incredibly political thing right now.
And also, it's like, keep in mind, he's playing a cartoon pimp. Like, he might as well be like a coyote with like a big, like, fucking chain, like, swinging and walking into like fucking Roger Rabbit's bar to like punk him. But like, how terrible is that quote, Liz?
I want to comment on the whole clip. I saw that clip and I realized why the 21st century is a shit show that it is. Give me a minute. I'm still a little sticker shock.
Okay, so you know, I would normally, I would normally never address the hecklers, but Josie, yes, Josie was Kid Rock's hype man. He was a little person that would hang out at the shows that Kid Rock cut his teeth on in Detroit, and he was so interesting and so vibrant that Kid Rock was like, "Why don't you come on stage?" And that led to, "Why don't you come with me on my world tours?" Until he met his, untimely demise, where he died of a gluten intolerance. It was a different time. Taco Bell didn't have a Fresca menu yet. We didn't know the dangers of dietary dysfunction. But anyways, continuing on. All right, so
Also, the language is very different because Josie comes out and he's got a handwritten in Sharpie shirt that says, "I'm not a fucking midget." And that was his.
Yeah, a doctor never
choice.
said you're a midget, so he was like, "I'm not," and he wasn't. He just had this growth stint because of his dietary dysfunction.
But then to also tribute to the original Woodstock, he then later comes out with an afro and does a Jimi Hendrix impersonation.
They call him Little Jimmy.
Yeah.
This next clip is particularly important because all of the bands that played at Woodstock 99 were required to do an interview with MTV. So MTV had to bring in all these like radio personalities and other TV hosts from around the country to fill in for the amount of work that needed to be done. And what you're gonna see here, this is Los Lobos, a legendary band. They've been around for 25 fucking years before this. And this guy is going to completely cringe you into yourself right now.
This guy's name is, we think this radio personality is Cousin Ed from Philadelphia.
Cousin Ed.
Hi, I'm Cousin Ed. I'm hanging backstage, side stage. We're somewhere. We're in a tent. Woodstock 99. I don't know who let me back here, but I'm back here with Los Lobos. Who let you back here? You did. You did. Who's the most fluent in Spanish? Because I got another question for that person.
No, we don't speak Spanish.
Caesar? How would you say,
Get pasó?
lots of bare breasts that are painted? I know you've seen some of those. You just did a set, so.
Mi tío está enfermo y el camino está muy verde.
Is that really what it means?
No, I don't know.
I don't know what you said. See, it could have been something very mean about me. Would you say that you are living La Vida Loca then?
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. That's it. No, I want to get to that though. I want to get your opinion on this whole craze thing. Because people are crazy, man.
People are crazy.
Is that what that is? So
We've been crazy for 25 years.
All right, here's a more down-to-earth question, okay? Who would win in a fight, Jose Cuervo or Juan Valdez? Hey. You have the same react personal take.
Okay, that's it. Give up.
Who would win? I would say Jose Cuervo, but like I said, that's personal takes. No, not at all. It just comes to mind.
We're Latins.
A connoisseur. Yeah, there's a difference, isn't there? See, my ex-wife was from Colombia. And I always started, well, she's an ex, first of all. Sex wasn't her top priority. But it always made me wonder, when I was married to her, why that phrase Latin lover actually came around. Any insight?
I don't know.
None at all.
That's so fucking bad.
There's a lot of good faces that I just saw.
Yeah, you guys are doing exactly what I want you to do.
Cousin Ed is on YouTube. He has a channel.
Yeah, you can watch the whole thing and you can watch their set too. Oh.
Okay.
All right.
So, the whole reason that I wanted to do the show in the first place is because a friend of mine, where I live in Echo Park, kitty corner to me, there is someone who is learning how to play bass guitar in the neighborhood, and they are running through all kinds of 70s jazz fusion parts that I recognize, like, oh, that's Weather Report. And so sometimes he mixes in the Star Spangled Banner and other songs like Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang, and it's clearly a teenage boy because nobody else would run through the Star Spangled Banner on bass guitar.
Jungle Boogie.
Yeah, so I was texting my friend, hey, it's funny that this kid is doing this across the street, and he says, oh, Star Spangled Banner, you should check out Wyclef Jean's Star Spangled Banner from Woodstock 99. It's the nadir of rock. This is a text.
This is single-handedly my favorite moment of this entire thing.
Most folks that played Woodstock, I know it's like everyone's got like 2 cents on this shit. Most folks that played Woodstock 99 don't talk about it. They don't share the videos of them on the anniversary. Wyclef Jean can't be more proud that he did this shit. And if you watch his whole set, which I recommend you all do because it's only 25 minutes long, on the main stage of the biggest festival in the world, but it's a shit show from beginning to end. Nothing's right. It's like they showed up and were like, can we play? And they're like, yeah. They're like, what are we gonna do? I don't know. And a couple details that you need to keep in mind. First of all, it's insane. Second of all, look at how there's a sticker on his pickguard. He got that guitar like that day. It's totally bizarre. And he's wearing a Woodstock 99 shirt.
Let's show him this clip.
Do it, hit him. And if you can all see it, put your hand over your heart.
Turn up the guitar.
I am in Woodstock, turn my guitar up.
You are free to throw your plastic bottles when I start this record. Hold on. You are free to smoke your weed when I drop this record. Turn my guitar up loud, loud, loud. How many of y'all there love Ross Escobar? Make some noise.
The real Woodstock shit. I think it's cool.
rocks and batteries.
Close up on the technique. We need someone to tap this out. There he goes. He nods to the guy in the yellow shirt. That's the cue. Because they're going to try another Jimmy Hendrix moment here. Go, go, go. Go, go.
Boy, this guitar sounds on fucking fire. Jackass.
Didn't light his guitar on fire at Woodstock, but we're
It's a WD-40 too.
Go, more.
It's like Castaway, they're like trying to learn how to make fire.
So he gets on fire, but then Wyclef, no, he just puts it out. He just put it out.
Give me one of the DJ's records, I'm burning this shit.
It's completely dead. No.
That's an American-made Fender, dude. That shit ain't given.
No. Still no. What's the remedy? What do you do now?
This is what you do. Spirit hands.
He plays jump around and just crowd
So
surfs.
that is the sound of stalling.
Yeah, that's like, I don't know what to do. Yeah, it's like, oh my god. Woo! So this is
We're at the pits now.
It's about to take a turn in there.
Oh, it's gonna get worse actually.
Yeah, so we're going to investigate what exactly happened during Korn and the Biscuits set.
Well, real quick. Thoughts on Kid Rock? Are you there yet? Did we break you? Did I break you?
I think so. Yeah.
We're gonna come back. I'm not gonna forget. We're gonna come back to this. So here's the thing with Woodstock '99, and again, this is one of the main things of the narrative that's been put out in all the media and all that stuff. Was that Limp Bizkit was really the turning point of the festival, where their set was so violent, so out of control that set the stage for the entire thing to fall apart the entire next day and for the rest of the night. We on the show have, through our extensive painstaking research, realized that that's not necessarily true because the pit was always that bad, and people were always doing that stuff. It was just Limp Bizkit was the biggest band at the time in the world, and they didn't headline, they played at like 7 or 8 at night. So it was this like prime time spot where the energy was gonna be the highest, and they got the most press. But really what you're gonna see here is the difference between a day 1 pit and a day 2 pit, and it is pretty rough. Wait, no, oh shit. Actually, hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Special treat.
Yeah. Sidebar.
You have to wait for that. 'Cause, that's too detrimental to the story. There was a rave that happened from midnight every single night of the festival in one of the hangars that used to house bombers that used to kill people, but it's peace, love, and music, so we're not gonna think about that. But they would have a rave there that went on again from midnight until 5 a.m. every day there. And it's the most mysterious part of the festival because there's really not that much footage of it, but we managed to find, minus what you see in the DVD we were playing earlier for just like a quick second, this is the only other footage we've ever seen of it. It's really intense, and from what we got from reading all the articles about it was that it wasn't necessarily as nasty as say the main stage crowd was or the West stage crowd. This is more all just consent. This is the free love of Woodstock '99. This is where the free love actually came into play and everyone was having a good time. But it's also really sketchy and like scary.
Yay!
Thumbs up. The rave was headlined by Moby, Fat Boy Slim, Harry Farrell was supposed to play on the last day, but he chickened out because the place was destroyed. Oh, who's that? Okay, keep it in mind.
real sex.
Yeah, it's very late night. The sun is up! I love you so much, baby. My girlfriend can never find out. Peace, love, and music, baby.
So we discovered something. When we were watching this the other day, I happened to freeze frame on this, and I was like, what is that guy look familiar?
Do you remember
That's
him?
the vibe.
Do you know who we're talking about?
It's the same guy from Newsweek.
100% the dude. Check the ears.
The smile. It's the smirk. It's the same smirk. So yes, this is an harbinger of the Trump era. It's the same shit. All right, where are we going?
All right.
Okay, so this is the Limp Bizkit performance.
Right, and we introed it wrong because it's our first live event. But anyways, yeah, so like I was saying, Limp Bizkit caught a lot of the blame for what happened, even though this shit really breaks down a whole complete day after, and there was way more aggressive bands playing right after Limp Bizkit, but they really caught a lot of the blame. And Korn did, to an extent. Really terrible things happened to Korn. If you heard our episode where we discussed the Spin magazine coverage, there was a really, really awful, scary, terrifying sexual assault that happened in the Korn pit that was reported by a crisis intervention specialist that was hired to be on the grounds because you need one of those at a festival that's supposed to be about peace, love, and music. And he saw this from a crow's nest, but what you're gonna see here is this like blame game going back and forth, and then we're gonna show you kind of a juxtaposition between the two most aggressive bands that played at Woodstock 99, which basically characterized the entire situation.
What are your memories of that show, and what do you think it did for this movement of heavy music?
Well, they were really pushing this movement hard. It was like this breakout metal festival with a few other artists sprinkled in. I remember getting there and just going, oh my God, look at this place. This is Woodstock. What an honor, how amazing. I mean, it was definitely the highlight of rap metal music. First of all, it was crazy. It was a great show.
And how?
We're gonna play. It was just amazing to play in front of 400,000 plus people and them all get it and be right there with us and feel what we were doing. It was amazing to see people jump into music, and because there's so many people seeing how the sound travels, seeing the waves that people jump, and it was just ridiculous.
Woodstock 99 was unforgettable. That was a pretty big moment. That was the biggest moment in our career because it was so intense. Never done anything like that before. It still happening.
So check out this pit break. When this shit pops off, none of us has ever been in something like this, dude. Because you're still here, because you're here, that's how I know.
So yeah, like, it breaks down why pit violence is different here than other places.
Okay, so here you're not seeing, okay, like we saw during Seven Dust or Offspring, there's definitely pits where people are punching each other. This is just everyone jumping, and so what you saw a lot of when people getting their ribs broken, if you fell, you're definitely breaking your wrist, you're definitely getting jumped on, and you had to jump in order to not get sucked down by this riptide of fucking aggression and corn. And so check this out.
First song.
Opening song of the set. First day, day one. They're not even headlining. Bushes after them. It's estimated that one person was brought to the medic tent every 20 seconds of this set.
I love Fieldy though. I love Fieldy.
I love corn so much, but my parents never get the edited versions when I was a kid.
mean, this is one of the most actual 99 moments happening right now. Yeah, they were our first what we call legends of Woodstock 99, where we'll dedicate an entire episode just to their set because it's so like important to the narrative, but also like Jesus fucking Christ.
Rocks got placed that first night, and everybody had fun. The second night, my biscuit cut up for everybody.
These are friends, Jonathan Davis and Rest in peace.
The one, the only, the scary.
How many people here ever woke up one morning and just decided it wasn't one of those days and you're gonna break some
This
shit?
is the moment when they decided that Limp Bizkit caused what happened. This is the moment. You be the judge. We've watched so many other sets of theirs in the same year. They do the same thing every show. This wasn't a Woodstock specific thing. They were just going through the motions, and it was on the responsibility of the attendance, really.
Let's feel it. It's just one of those days. You wanna justify? Someone's head on. No human contact. And if you interact, you're like his own contract. Your next bet was to stay away, motherfucker. It's just one of those days.
You know, not in their defense though. They did play a song called Break Stuff, and people started breaking stuff.
First one to the plane, he's with the first thing. You better watch your game. Stuck up, you just locked up. Next time I get fucked up. It's just one of those days.
Power of music. I think when I first heard this song,
I might have broken like a toy or something. Stuff dead.
So come and get it.
He does this at every performance. This isn't something he did just for Woodstock that caused all this shit, but this is why they blamed all the shit on them, and they even stopped their set. It was the perfect storm, right? It's all pretty pro. It's polished.
They let that shit out of your fucking system. You got girl problems. You got boy problems. You got parent problems. You got boss problems. You got job problems. You got a problem with me. You got a problem with yourself. It's time to take all that negative energy and put it the fuck out. You feel me, Woodstock? I feel you. Alright, let's bring it out. When this song kicks in, I want you to fucking kick in. You got it.
That goes for you guys too. Start fucking shit.
Everywhere. And when we finally went up to play, it was like middle of the day. Yes, we had like the best slot.
The alien!
Super high. So we just got up and we played our show.
We walked on stage and it was that wave of people bouncing as far as you could see. Hundreds of thousands of people, and it was the most amazing adrenaline pumping moment that I've ever experienced, and I was so amped and ready to rock, and we just did what we do. But I guess things started to go bad during, our song Break Stuff. It is what it is. I was just wondering, because during the performance I saw people surfing on bars.
started going bad.
Amazing. How cool is that? I'm gonna go do it. So I jump down off the stage and I go out in the crowd and I'm telling them to bring the plywood over here, and they're surfing it over, and I get up on it and I'm just start rocking on the plywood. I'm partying with you guys. I want to be out here in the crowd with you. This is amazing. I had no idea there was anything negative going on at all. I understood that I meant, okay, let's get rid of all that negativity so we can bring positive in. That means starting.
So he had no idea about the negativity, but he was trying to get rid of the negativity. There's some big holes in the story, France.
Definitely.
That's plywood. None of that's supposed to be
I remember
there.
getting off the stage and having some policemen or my manager come around me and say, Fred, I think you kind of incited a riot. They started ripping down buildings and scaffolding, and that's the plywood you were surfing
Or
over.
the flies. I would really love
at
at
the
some point
restaurant. They were
someone
tearing down
just
things
say
and
you
people
kinda
getting hurt.
incited a
I didn't
riot.
see any of that. Everybody I saw was having an amazing time.
Fred was just like, come on, let's break stuff. That song, and doing that, it's just a little bit top, and that's when all stuff happened. There's people hurt, people getting beat up,
Under the bus,
all this
thrown under the
craziness. He instigated the whole damn thing. I was right there watching it.
That brings us to, and we're gonna try and burn through some shit because we want Ass to do their amazing new metal cover set for y'all, and we're gonna all break stuff in a figurative way. But the most intense thing about Woodstock 99, the reason why it's considered a true crime story, is that there were hundreds of sexual assaults. There was 8 reported, and those 8 are some of the most terrifying that you'll probably ever come across. But the casualness of groping and grabbing and touching and just taking it upon yourself to completely wipe away any accountability. Because keep in mind, the cell phones weren't around, so it's not like nowadays where every single moment of your life in a public space is being filmed. There was no accountability for a lot of this stuff, except for the fact that you were on pay-per-view in front of millions of fucking people, but people didn't care about that. And so this is definitely the darkest aspect of the festival. And there's a lot of reasons for it. I mean, Liz put it really great the first time we met. She talked about, what was it? It was about the early 90s.
Oh, when I was talking about how like in the early 90s, you know, there was Riot Girl as a movement. There was this call for like girls to like literally come up to the front at the show from other girls who were on stage, you know, and it didn't become the movement it didn't become that big. It stayed kind of this underground thing. But by the end of the 90s, you had girl power that became the slogan for the Spice Girls. So you had like this very commercialized version of what was like girls trying to take music into their own hands.
Right, and I feel like that's a big reason. And also, there's that mentality to it where, girl power became this kind of MTV product rather than a true, meaningful movement, by that time. Because in the 90s, they were, like you talked about Nirvana, they were able to monetize every single counterculture movement that came about.
Literally every part of 90s subculture, and I'm saying this as somebody who was 13 in 1990 and 22 in 1999. This is my entire teenage years, my very young adult years. It's like every time we would get into something, every time something happened organically and started to become popular, there became this very commercial aspect of it. And I think you kind of see that really coming to the head in Woodstock 99. And then by the 21st century, it was just like whatever.
Right, and now we're finally seeing it come back just a little bit.
That's a nostalgic revival.
Right, yes. Yeah, because Bikini Kill's on tour again. But the thing is it's so casual, and we've watched almost every single set. We're on day 3 now, and Parks and I have sat there and watched these sets in their entirety, and there's not a single one, with the exception of Mickey Hart's Planet Drum, that doesn't have, and I'm thinking dead fans out there, but that doesn't have an on-camera sexual assault, whether it be just someone grabbing at someone, whether it be just like a creepy hand coming up and getting a squeeze. Because on one hand, you have people wanting to be free, and you have women that are like, oh, I'm at Woodstock, I want to go topless, and blah, blah, blah. And then on the other hand, you have men that think, well, it's free love, that means everyone wants to fuck me. And that's not the fucking case. There's no sense of boundaries. And that became kind of the trademark of Woodstock 99 in the aftermath, let alone all the other stuff that we're about to get to next.
Well, okay, and to go back to what I mentioned about about Riot Girl in the early 90s, if you had followed that, and you knew the music, and you read the zines, you also saw that there was basically a call to action for safety for women at the shows. Because this isn't like, it's not like this is the first time, Woodstock 99 is not the first time a woman was assaulted at a concert. Not the last, definitely not the first.
Right.
And it's just a very big example of it.
It's very blatant.
Yeah, it's blatant and it's inexcusable, and that's why it's been swept under the rug so much. And now, again, you see Woodstock 50 trying to happen, and it's just like, dude, Woodstock is ruined because of this stuff, and it's because you had hooligans in there without any accountability. Everything was inconsequential to them, and they acted like fucking animals. And it was Lord of the Flies, and women unfortunately ended up being the target of a lot of that energy. And what we're gonna show you are some clips where even the artists on stage, some of the top paid people at Woodstock 99 themselves couldn't help but mention what was going on.
All right, thanks a lot. Hey, are you guys having a good time? All right. Yeah, having a good time. You having a good time, Noodles? I'm having a fucking great time. Yeah.
Noodles.
But you know what? I was noticing something I gotta call your guys' attention to here for just a second. I've been noticing that there's a lot of girls coming over the top here, crowd surfing, and they're getting really groped. You know what I mean? And I think just because a girl wants to go crowd surfing or whatever, that doesn't give the guys the right to molest them, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so he projects the
If you're a guy and you see a girl passing overhead, give her a break, alright? You know what I'm saying? And if you're a girl and you see a guy passing overhead, I want you to grab his fucking balls!
Well, you know, just because a girl out there wants to feel free and take her shirt off doesn't mean a bunch of you have to go grab her tits and stuff, because they're her tits, they're not yours. You gotta leave those tits alone. Those tits are a girl's private property and they're a beautiful thing, so you gotta respect them.
Plus, if you weren't so grabby, they might all take their shirts off.
That's right. Okay, I just want to. So this to me is just a really big moment of digging through all this footage where you have Flea giving, out of any of the performers, one of the most earnest attempts at just recognizing this big problem and trying to address it in this very honest and open way. And then you have Anthony Kiedis in the back with Chad Smith like, hey bro, yeah, what he said. And that to me kind of does, it really is like a very, like a zeitgeist moment of like, maybe someone's trying to think about something for a second and then it just gets washed over entirely with this very like, this macho bro attitude, so.
But that is rock music.
Yeah.
It absolutely is
Totally.
100% rock music, and there is this culture that that had existed for many years before. You see it in heavy metal videos. I think it's the Motley Crue "Home Sweet Home" video that I remember kind of really disturbing me as a kid. There's this idea that the girls are there not to be a part of the music, not to be a part of the culture that's being made. The girls are there specifically to be objectified by the guys on the stage, by the guys in the audience.
Yeah.
And that is why this shit happens. And it fucking pisses me off to see this over and over again. Sorry, I get, but the thing is that like,
why we have you here.
the start of it, the end of it.
And this is why it's important to talk about this shit, because again, this is completely washed under it. And with in the news, I'm sure everyone's been seeing the Woodstock 50 stuff on any music news site. Oh, this like big disaster Woodstock 50 thing, and they're comparing it to Fire Festival. Fire Festival isn't shit compared to this. That's a bunch of rich kids that got ripped off in a fucking quasi Ponzi scheme. This is real people being hurt, being scarred for the rest of their fucking lives. And while yes, there was, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of people that had a great time, there's people that walked away from this never the same again. And it's really fucking serious. And that's why, on the show, it's like, yeah, we make a lot of jokes, but never did we forget how actually terrible this shit actually is. And that's why we felt it was important enough to dedicate this much fucking time to it.
And one more thing that I want to mention too is the whole thing about show me your tits, because that is something that has happened to shows before, after, no, you can't. So but that's part of the culture too, that it is okay for guys to scream out, show me your tits when you're at a show.
Right. Well, and at Woodstock, there were so many girls just going topless on their own. It's like, why bother screaming that anyways? Haven't you had enough? Haven't you had enough tits, you fucking monsters?
But that phrase was, because I do remember, being like a 13-year-old and like going to concerts, and you would see that all the time. And I mean, if you go to like a big concert now, it doesn't happen. But
yeah, because people will kick your ass and put your ass all over fucking Instagram, which should happen, and it wasn't able to happen back then, and that's why it got so fucking out of hand. There was such a lack of accountability, there was such a lack of personal responsibility that you see it turning the shit, and then that begets the next major crisis of Woodstock 99, which is, you know, the fact that the water price was being raised from $4 to $7 in the span of 3 days, the fact that food wasn't readily available, the fact that bathrooms weren't there by the end of the second day, the fact that no one was picking up trash is why you see this kind of shit happening, where everyone took those peace candles and set fire to anything they fucking could and looted whatever they could because someone was going to get something out of this.
So here's this.
This is a very dangerous situation. Everyone is trying to get out of here. I think we're going to go.
If you've ever been to a music festival, this doesn't usually happen. It's not protocol. Oh, this is the delay tower. That's like thousands of pounds.
Peace for the music.
Oh, shit. Dude, So those trailers, those are trailers that are they're full of, you know, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars of
supplies, everything else.
Then vendors had to flee.
This is a breakdown of human society.
Now we got some looting.
Probably like a $20 fucking value box of them, motherfucker. Free! Nothing. Condoms everywhere.
You see that in the exhibit? That listed?
Yeah, we have a couple of things looting.
This makes me want to go home from here, let alone if I was fucking there.
So this is what, like, really, that's like late.
Late it's Sunday night,
like,
yeah.
So this is now Monday morning. Most of the attendees are gone. Yeah, Firefest is gonna shit on that.
This is Firefest right here. This is fucking Firefest. It's so eerie. It's like a natural disaster, but the nature is just human nature. That was the part of nature that made the disaster happen. It's really creepy, and you know, there's the overcast, the tents, the confusion.
The defiant brain.
Yeah, people still keeping it going. I'm sure someone's still banging on a trash can somewhere.
This is
That's my favorite. This is like a
boom, the tower, the carcass.
It's like in Lion King, the elephant cemetery.
Just this June, I was working at, I did a little gig working at Bonnaroo, and I tell you, most festivals, they don't end like that.
No.
That's not a
Dude, I went to Stagecoach last year in South Garth Brooks. It didn't end like this. Oh, rock and roll, baby. It's
But yeah,
it was almost the flyer image, right?
Yeah. I mean, do you know how hard it is to pick one picture to represent this event? It's impossible.
Holy shit.
Nero Stop with Michael Lang, founder of Woodstock.
So this is the aftermath.
Yeah, fuck Profit Stock. So basically what happened afterwards is there was basically like $10 million in damage to this. And that included a stolen Mercedes-Benz that was driven onto the grounds, flipped over and set on fire. That's just one of the things that happened. All the vendors lost all that money, all the damage to the staging and the sound and all that stuff. And then the stories start trickling in, because really no one knew how bad it was until the stories got out, because on this last day you were pretty much trapped. Kurt Loder is fighting for his life, being airlifted out from a fucking concert site. That's never happened before, and it's never happened since. It's a totally autonomous event that is contained within its own history, and it was swept under the rug because of that. And
But
that's why
it's
we're
tied
doing
to the Woodstock legacy.
And most people will tell you that we're there. We've talked to a lot of people that were there. Some of them are here. We got Andy, we got Mike, Tony B. We got there's some survivors here. And if you went to Woodstock and I don't know you, talk to me after the show. But yeah, and that was obviously the picture that we picked for the flyer. Someone took the time to put all those plastic bottles within a chain link fence to make this monument to how fucked up it was. And it's a testament to that original Woodstock moment when the helicopter's flying away and you see the peace sign in trash and it's well intentioned. This is a true statement of how unhappy people were there, and that is the legacy that Woodstock has right now. And then
So-
they didn't have enough. You can't ever
Right,
get
so
enough.
we're not here to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Woodstock 69. We are here to celebrate the 20th anniversary of
Woodstock 99.
But it
Better or worse.
looks back, Michael Lang is trying
And
his best.
If you haven't been following this story, it is such a shit show because the only people that really do remember what happened at Woodstock 99 are people that throw festivals. And for them to try and get permits to try and do this again, when they were denied permits for 99, they did it outside of the law and just decided, oh, we'll make enough money, we'll just pay the fine. That's not happening nowadays. They're like, no, fuck you. When you guys throw a festival, it ends like that. When we throw a festival, it's Coachella. And so that's why they've run into all this trouble, and that's why, the money got pulled from the investors, and that's why they still have it scheduled to happen August 14th through 16th. But there's no venue, no tickets have been sold, but the bands have been paid. It's ridiculous.
There's no official cancellation on Woodstock.
Yeah, if you go to the Woodstock 50 website, it's like none of that shit happened. They're just like, can't wait to see ya!
So it's a simple story, really. They tried it didn't go well, and it's not happening.
What do you think, Lizzie? You've been to some festivals in your day.
I've been.
Have you been following this in the news?
Not really, because I stopped going to festivals a while ago because they're too much.
What do you think? Is there any hope for a Woodstock 50?
Probably not.
Yeah, absolutely not. That's what everyone we've ever talked to, any music journalist I've talked to, they're like, no fucking way. That's like in 2 weeks from now. I had probably an easier time setting this up than they're having fucking doing that. You know what I mean? They have millions of dollars behind them. I bought that shit on eBay. Like, Jesus Christ.
But we gotta follow it to the end because it's so timely.
Yes.
And until they say, until it happens or until it's officially canceled,
Then we're still here.
There is a Woodstock happening in 3 weeks from now.
Well, and also, there's like some confusion because there's another 50th anniversary of Woodstock being thrown in Bethel, which is where the original one happened. And it's basically a museum exhibit, but they have a couple bands playing. No one that played at the original Woodstock. But that was announced first. And then the real Woodstock guys were like, wait, no, we're doing 50. And that's when everything started getting fucked up. But we'll keep you updated on that if you listen to the show.
Sometimes you just gotta let the past be in the past.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta accept that you're never gonna make fucking money off of this shit. Head at it. You're absolutely right. It's like Woodstock was. We're not trying to like shit on this great piece of Americana because like deep down I love the story of the original Woodstock, and I think it's so interesting to see the last one compared to the first one, and that's why we got into this. That's such like a weird cherry on top of the whole thing. That one is considered so great, and one is not even talked about because it's so awful. You know what I mean?
Like, I don't know how anybody in their right mind would have thrown Woodstock 99 as a peace, love sort of thing and expected that to happen in the U.S. in 1999.
Yeah.
You book Metallica, Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine.
Kid Rock, who's telling you to put his balls in your mouth.
But maybe it's just of the time.
Yeah, it's just untimely and it was in no taste.
I mean,
And,
it was part of its own moment. It's just not a moment that is a legacy of the first moment.
Right, and we try and
But
say,
maybe
you know,
it is.
in the 60s.
In a weird way.
In a weird, I mean, it's a cornerstone, you know what I mean? And it kind of represents the summation of all the stuff that happened. You know, what started off so promising ends in fires, and that's kind of what happened in the 1960s, where Woodstock was this amazing thing that brought everyone together. And when you try and replicate that and you do Altamont, fucking the Hells Angels kill a guy. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden the entire movement that you worked 10 years to fucking make happen is now obsolete, and that's what happened in 1999.
Well, I'll tell you, like, as you know, part of the same generation as the people who went to Woodstock '99. Like, I watched this, and like, I'm totally embarrassed to be part of the same generation, and yet I'm totally not surprised that that's what happened.
And that is basically the overall attitude.
Yeah, no, that's it.
Well, we're gonna have Ass Life play now. They're gonna do a special Woodstock '99 tribute. We're very lucky to have them. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Gee. Thank you, Brett, so much. This is Podcast 99 Live.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for coming, but hang on, because they're gonna fucking rock the shit out of you. We're gonna not break stuff.
I just want to really quickly just give a big shout out to Ryan right here for.
And to the survivors, seriously, they're around. Talk to them. The prints that are up are amazing. You gotta check those out.
Mike
But check out
Schreiber.
fucking Ass Life. It's time to party.